has been known as the carpet capital of the world. And as many of you know, the majority of the carpet sold around the globe is manufactured right here in and around Dalton. But when the housing market collapsed in the late 2000s, this community was hit hard. Because you see, fewer new homes were being built, which meant less demand for carpet and flooring. And as a result, factories closed or downsized. Thousands of people in this community were laid off. By population, in fact, at that time, Dalton lost more jobs than any other American city. Now, I know this is a story that many of you remember, because you lived it. But I tell the story because I believe more Americans should know about what has happened here in Dalton since. In the face of incredible challenges, you showed incredible resilience. You invested in an industry of the future. You partnered with Q-Cells, a global clean energy company, to build a solar panel factory right here in Georgia. You worked around the clock to make this facility a success. And today, then, this city is home to one of the largest solar panel factories in all of the United States. And equally significant, the panels being produced here are some of the best in the world. Yes. And so President Joe Biden and I know this is just the beginning. Dalton, we see what you have accomplished, and we see the path that you've laid. We see a future with more jobs, more factories, and more opportunity. And we are fighting with you to make that vision real. Since taking office, our administration has made the largest investment in solar energy in our nation's history. We've strengthened domestic supply chains to make sure America has reliable access to parts and material to build a clean energy, technology, and economy. We provided tax credits to encourage companies to buy solar panels made in America. And we invested billions more to build and expand factories like this one. And because of all this work earlier this year, Q-Cells announced they would invest $2.5 billion to build a solar facility next door in Cartersville, to triple the size of this factory, and to create 2,500 more jobs right here in Georgia. And what kind of jobs are we talking about? We're talking about the jobs that are the skills that are required to be a technician, an engineer, an IT specialist, a data analyst. Jobs that give folks the opportunity to grow and advance right here in the community. And jobs that help our nation fight the climate crisis. So today I am proud to announce that Q-Cells has received a new order for 2.5 million solar panels. Think about that. And this order was made possible by the investments that we have made to expand American manufacturing and increase demand for clean energy. There is a nexus. There is a nexus. When we talk about the relationship between supply and demand, it is real. So these 2.5 million panels will be used by a company called Summit Ridge Energy to build hundreds of solar arrays in states like Illinois and Maine and Maryland because of the work that's happening right here. These projects are known as community solar projects, which will help reach folks who otherwise might not be able to have access to solar power. So think about it, for example. People who might live in an apartment building and do not then have access to a roof to install solar panels. Or folks who might live in a home that is covered by shade, right? Or folks who simply cannot afford the upfront cost to place solar panels on their roof. In all, the solar panels in this one order will provide enough electricity to power 140,000 homes. And on average, the electricity they generate will be 10% cheaper than traditional power. So, George, I'm here today because all of this work demonstrates a very important and probably obvious point. It shows that when we invest in climate, when we invest in clean energy, when we invest in U.S.-based manufacturing, we invest in America and her people. All across our nation, there are communities like Dalton, communities full of people with incredible ambition and aspiration, who just need an opportunity to show what they can do. President Biden and I are fighting to create that opportunity. Since taking office, we have put millions of people to work repairing our roads, bridges, ports, and airports so that Americans can get where they need to go, replacing every lead pipe in America so our children can have clean water to drink, building fiber optic lines to connect rural areas with high-speed internet so that no student, as we saw far too many during the pandemic, so that no student has to sit in a parking lot of a fast food restaurant to submit their homework over Wi-Fi. So since taking office, we have created more than 12 million jobs, including many good-paying union jobs. And today, unemployment is near its lowest rate in over 50 years. And American manufacturing is growing faster than it has in decades. And so know this, like Dalton, America is on its path. It's on its path. President Biden and I will continue to fight to create opportunity in every community. We will continue to work to build a nation where every person, no matter where they start, can have the opportunity not only to survive, but to thrive. And we will continue to invest in America because we know that when we do, there is no limit to what we can achieve. God bless you all, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank
All right, so you were just listening to those remarks live. The Vice President, Kamala Harris, announcing a historic solar commitment in Dalton, Georgia, Whitfield County. Second time she's been here to Georgia this year, just to highlight the Biden administration's efforts to build a cleaner economy here. Remember, she was in Atlanta in February when she was talking with Georgia Tech students about climate change and clean energy. So, you know, we're, of course, always going to bring this to you, these live events, particularly when they're happening right here in our home state of Georgia. And we're going to keep following that. But I want to get you caught up on some of the other major headlines that we are following just here around the metro Atlanta area today. So in Gwinnett County, the sheriff's office is now saying that one of its own deputies is charged with a DUI. Master Deputy Walter Pollock was arrested by the Georgia State Patrol for allegedly driving under the influence in Walton County. Troopers say Pollock was driving above the legal limit of alcohol, driving with more than the legal limit allowed. They say that he hit 3 mailboxes and then just drove off. People who lived in that area called 911. Records show that Pollock has actually been in law enforcement for 20 years. He's currently on administrative leave and served with an intent to terminate at this point now. Also, this is another story that we've been following out of one Atlanta neighborhood in particular. People are just fed up with trains stalling, blocking them in for hours, really concerned about the access of even emergency vehicles in times of need. So now a state representative is really trying to address this issue. Atlanta News First reporter Madeline Montgomery has been in the Hunter Hills community all morning talking to some of these frustrated neighbors.
That's what I put on, so nobody can hit me.
Andrea Swain may be retired, but lately the 66-year-old spends his free time, sometimes hours on end, directing traffic. Neighbors captured him in action last week when a CSX train stopped right in the middle of Chapel Road in Atlanta's Hunter Hills neighborhood.
Because I hear the train going by, but when you hear that clack, 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 and then I'm like, that ain't good.
Here on Chapel Road between Ezra Church and Bernard Street is where neighbors tell me that train blockage happens all too frequently. They say it's a traffic and safety hazard and something has to change.
Really just the emergency access for police, fire trucks, ambulance.
Timothy Brown, who lives right down the road, tells us the inevitable traffic jam is a major inconvenience.
So the blockages can last up to 24 hours. And in a case there's been a couple cases where it lasted 3 days.
Neighbors tell us the train blockages also happen at Fairfield Place Northwest in the Dixie Hills neighborhood and Murphy Avenue in the Adair Park neighborhood. The Georgia Department of Transportation says they can't do anything about the issue because it's out of their jurisdiction and it's up to the individual train companies. Atlanta News First reached out to CSX. In a statement, the company said in part, quote, "We apologize for any inconvenience our trains may have caused the Hunter Hills community. There are times when mechanical and operational issues could result in blocked crossings, as well as when trains stop for mandatory safety inspections, federally regulated crew changes, or when entering or exiting busy rail yards. We make every effort to minimize blocked crossings and address recurring issues."
CSX in general has showed good faith attempts, but we're still not seeing results.
Amanda Rose, Atlanta News First.
My thanks to my colleague Amanda Rose for that report. We're less than 2 weeks away now from a runoff election in Cobb County's newest and largest city, Mableton. Of course, we've been following this. The city's first election last month drew really an incredibly low turnout, pretty disappointing, only about 7% of the population there. Well, last night, candidates for the mayor's seat and 4 city council spots tried to convince citizens, get out there, vote for them. This was in a forum there in Mableton. Voters approved a split from the unincorporated area of Cobb County last November, wanting more autonomy over zoning and development in their own community. Michael Owens and Aaron Carmen are both vying to be the city's first ever mayor. 8 other candidates hoping to become part of the city's inaugural city council. Early voting for the runoff starts next week on April 10th, and Election Day is actually slated for April 18th. You must already be a registered voter in that area to cast a ballot. Just want to keep those dates in mind. Again, early voting for the runoff starts next week, April 10th. Election Day slated for April 18th. Okay, let's talk about the home opener today. A lot of fans so excited to see if the Braves have what it takes to get to the postseason like they did last year, maybe even become World Series champs like in 2021. Ahead of the evening game, there's going to be a lot of activity for Braves fans, a lot to do at the Battery at Truist. So at 4:30, there's the Braves walk. Fans can cheer on their favorite players as they return to Truist. There will be games and performances leading up to the first pitch, which UGA's Stetson Bennett is going to be thrown out, and there will even be a flyover by U.S. fighter jets for the national anthem. All in all, a lot for people to look forward to at the home opener. We're going to have, of course, team coverage of this. Our traditional broadcasts start at 3 p.m. this afternoon, but we're always here on Atlanta News First Plus, even when we're not on air. You can always find us online and all our digital platforms as well. And we're going to make sure we keep you up to date, and you are up to date. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Joy Lim Nakrin. Thanks for being with Atlanta News First Plus.